Welcome to Whole and Healthy Cooking with Chef Val. Well, do you want to be physically strong? I have the whole grain for you. Barley. Welcome to Whole and Healthy Cooking with Chef Val. I am Chef Valerie Wilson. I've been teaching healthy, whole foods cooking classes since 1997. I'm the author of 6 cookbooks, and you can find out all that I have to offer on my website, macroval.com. Well, it's spring season, and that means it's time to feed and nurture our liver, our gallbladder, and our nervous system. And the whole grain that does that is barley. It is a beautiful, creamy whole grain, and when it cooks up, it has a wonderful sweetness to it. If you put it in soups, it creates this beautiful, thick broth for you. Now, in the springtime, your body goes through a natural cleansing process because in the wintertime, you ate heavier foods, maybe foods that had a little more seasoning, a little more fat. So the springtime, we get that lighter energy, and so the body goes through this natural cleansing. Now, the whole grain barley can help your body with that because it's very high in fiber, which means it just flushes your body out. And it also helps to regulate your liver, your gallbladder, 2 organs in your body that help your body cleanse. So the whole grain barley has been around for a long time. Originated about 8,500 years ago. And it was the main food of the very physically strong gladiators. Yes, they ate a roasted barley gruel where they would roast the whole grain barley and then they would cook it. This was the main source of their diet, roasted barley gruel. So if you want to be physically strong, this is your whole grain. Now it is a whole grain, complex carbohydrate, which will give you energy, but guess what? It also contains all 8 essential amino acids, which means it's a complete protein, making the whole grain barley practically a perfect food. So how are you going to cook barley? Well, first of all, there's a couple different types of barley. So this is pearled barley. There's also another barley that's called hulled barley. Pearled barley, they have polished off a little more of the outside part of the grain. So actually, hulled barley is going to take a little longer to cook. It's going to be a little more chewy, and it's going to have a little more vitamins, minerals, and fiber. But there's nothing wrong with pearled barley. Many people actually prefer the pearled barley because of the texture. It's a creamier texture, basically. So this is pearled barley. So what we're going to do to cook it, you take 1 part of your whole grain. Now in this instance, I did a 1/2 cup of barley and 1 cup of water. I put it in a pot. You put it on the stove at a high temperature and you bring it to a boil. That boiling water starts to open up the kernel of the grain and starts the cooking process and actually makes it a little more easier to digest later. And then after it's cooked just for a minute, you put a lid on it, you reduce it to the lowest possible temperature, and if you have a flame tamer, I advise you use that too. And then it cooks for approximately 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, all the water has been absorbed by the whole grain, and it'll be done. So here's how we check to make sure the whole grain is done. You simply just move the grain aside with your spatula, and you see there's no water in the bottom, which means all the water has been absorbed. So the whole grain barley is now complete and done. Some other wonderful things about the whole grain barley: it gives you flexible energy. It helps break down hardened, accumulated fat that might be stored in your body. It helps to create graceful movements. Now, in history, it has been used to help treat things like hepatitis, painful urination, helps reduce tumors. It has a high nutritional profile containing manganese, copper, B vitamins, chromium, phosphorus, iron, and selenium. Selenium is so fantastic for your heart, but selenium is also really good for your skin. So I hope you get a chance to cook up a pot of whole grain barley. I have some wonderful recipes in my Healthy and Delicious Cooking Spring Season Cookbook featuring the whole grain barley. I have a barley and bok choy recipe. I also have a stuffed mushroom recipe that I use the whole grain barley in. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please join my Patreon group for more cooking videos. Remember, your journey to eating healthy begins with one small step. Let's make that small step eating the whole grain barley.